Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Coming Up Milhouse. And today George has Vincent joining us. Vera's in here too, but she did not jump up on the table. And as you can see, no cat participation.
No, they will jump on for a second, but they have skedaddled out, but that's okay.
They both, however, do like to watch the show with us when we are watching before our review session. And today we watched season 6, episode 25, which is the last episode in that season, and it is Who Shot Mr. Burns?
A cliffhanger episode, one of the first that The Simpsons ever did, I'm sure. Really good. So, of course, we know Mr. Burns likes to be top dog in the energy game in Springfield. So when Springfield Elementary strikes oil, what does Mr. Burns do? He pulls a There Will Be Blood and drinks their milkshake.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
And
Wow.
and siphons off the school's oil.
Yep, with his slanted oil.
With his, Burns' slanted oil rig. And he takes all their oil. And,
Yep.
But then that's not good enough for Burns, is it?
No, of course not.
No, he's like, okay, I got all the oil in town. Now I shall take the sun away. So he's got this dastardly plan to put a big shield up in the sky and take away the sunlight. And now we really got to pay Burns for electricity.
It is. It has been a while since I've seen both episodes, so this question might be answered in the first of season 7, which is the second part of this cliffhanger. But I don't remember if Mr. Burns' sun shield moves with the sun or not, because it's smart enough to do that or not. Because it can be up, blocking the sun at its current location, but as the sun sets or as it rises, I don't remember if the sun shield follows the sun.
Well, that model he had came like this, and it looked like it was moving around.
Right.
So I think the real one he builds does it. But it blocks the sun for the town all day, every day. So that's a problem.
It's a pretty ingenious, dastardly plan.
Yeah. And he manages to anger pretty much everybody. Every single
one.
Springfieldian is not happy with him. And for many myriad of reasons. Moe's got a grudge. Barney's got a grudge. Even Smithers ends up getting a grudge. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. At the end of it, we get a parody, I say, of that old show Dallas, where Who Shot JR. That's really what they're going for here. For you youngins, there was a show in the 70s that I never watched, but you heard about it a million times. There was a character named J.R. Ewing, and at the end of the last of one of the seasons, he gets shot. And it was like one of the first cliffhangers in TV history, where everyone had to wait all summer until the next season started to find out who did it.
Right.
And that's kind of interesting how that wasn't a thing until that show. And then a lot of shows dupe that. Well, they're kind of doing that here in The Simpsons, and Burns is a surrogate for JR, Who Shot JR, but that was a big thing back then.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I will double check this before our next episode when we talk about the second part of this, but I don't remember any other animated show ever doing this. At least not back then. I think that maybe Family Guy has done it since with a 2-parter. But I don't remember animation ever doing something like this. So I think The Simpsons were fresh with this idea.
I think so. And it's a good one, and it's hilarious. Lots of funny stuff in there. So why don't we kick it off with our lines? Give me line number 1.
Owls will deafen us with their excessive hooting. The town's sundial will be deemed useless. And that was part of Smithers' rant with Mr. Burns when Mr. Burns unveils his plan to block the sun right before he fires Smithers. So,
Right.
and there we have it.
He can't think of anything to dissuade Burns more than owls will be hooting because it's dark.
The sundial is going to be deemed useless.
Yeah. Although it wasn't useless because that's where Burns
I know.
collapses at the
It's
end
true.
when he gets shot. So sundial comes back around. That's
Yep.
pretty cool.
What about you?
All right, so before all this stuff with Burns siphoning off the oil, the school is getting a bunch of like requests. People are requesting what they want. And Bart made a request that didn't go through, even though a lot of crazy things went through. And so Bart's griping about that while they're having dinner, and Lisa says, "It is unfeasible to raise the dead, Bart, but even if you could bring back the Three Stooges, they'd have better things to do than hang out with you." So that was Bart's crazy thing that he wanted from...
Yep.
From the
oil
money.
money.
He wanted the Three Stooges raised.
And the way that they discover that there's oil underneath the school is pretty amusing as well in this episode. I won't give that away. You need to watch the episode to see that, but it's pretty amusing. And I'm not really sure why instead of going outside, Willie uses a shovel where he uses a shovel.
In
But
the basement. What about your next one?
hey, the lamp's running away. That was Grandpa. Part of the episode with Burns' slanted oil well, he starts pumping oil and it spews all over the Simpsons' backyard and it knocks Bart's treehouse down. And unfortunately, Bart and Santa's little helper are up in the treehouse sharing an ice cream cone. And there's a lot of destruction in the backyard, and Santa's little helper ends up having to have a back leg cart attached to him and a cone of shame around his neck. And Grandpa is living with them because the retirement center collapses as well. And there's a lot of destruction throughout Springfield in this episode. But Santa's little helper does look like a lamp on wheels.
The cone of shame is
Yep.
a lampshade.
Running away.
Same thing.
And what about you?
Alright, so mine's when Quimby is up on the stage towards the end, and he's talking to everybody about what they're going to do about Burns and his blotting out the sun, and he's talking about how we're going to, have to address this, and then some goons whispers into his ear, and he says, "It has been brought to my attention that a lot of you are stroking guns, so I will step aside and open up the floor to questions." And the camera's panning, and like half the people in the audience are like, they got a pistol, a Derringer, a shotgun.
I don't know. It might have been everybody in the audience except
Yeah.
for Marge, basically. I feel like
Exactly.
everybody had something.
It was
So,
great.
who shot Mr. Burns? We will find out.
We will find out in the next episode.
I actually
And
know the answer.
We all,
but
yeah, I know it too. And you know what? If you want to shout it out in the comments, be my guest.
Yeah.
We will.
We'll-
I'll tell you what. If you want to shout it out in the comments, do that. And on the next episode, we will read the names of those
Yep,
who.
and we'll give you a shout out.
We'll give you a shout out if you tell us, and you got to be correct on who it was. All right, so we'll throw that out there. So let us know.
give us your guess.
Yeah. All right, scenes. What do you got for scenes?
I'm going to go with when Mr. Burns goes into the school, he's dressed as Jimbo, wearing a Punisher shirt and a stocking cap, and he's pretending to be an elementary school student to convince Skinner, when everybody's making a request, that Skinner needs to donate the oil to the energy company in Springfield. And then, of course, Skinner sees right through him. And Burns calls for help, and Smithers comes in with a stapler and is just shooting staples at Skinner and retaliation, and Skinner yells at him for wasting the staples. So
This is the only thing I can find. Click, click, click. Please stop wasting those.
It's just so silly. So Mr. Burns thought he could be in disguise wearing a t-shirt instead of a suit and a stocking cap, even though he still looked like a 104-year-old man.
I love it. I love it.
What about you?
All right, so I'm going back to the part where everybody is asking for stuff. They got all this flush with money, and everybody goes to Skinner with a request. So it starts with Willie, and he wants a crystal slop bucket. Approved. And then Lunch Lady Doris is talking about how the staff has been giving her a hard time lately. So she wants a new staff.
Approved.
And then Lisa wants Tito Fuente to come and teach jazz because he wants to settle into a nice teaching job.
Approved. And she's convinced him that all students are as great at love jazz as much as she does.
And then we got Chocolate Microscope. Approved. You know those guitars that, are like double guitars? Approved. And then new stamps. Approved. So all the crazy stuff. Of course, Bart didn't get one. He didn't get that approval, but these guys did. I loved it. It was fun.
Fantastic. So, who was your winner this episode?
So, winner was really hard, okay, because I was watching this episode and just having a hard time figuring out who could possibly be a winner other than Burns until he got shot. And so I was just kind of going back and forth, and I finally landed on Sideshow Mel for a silly reason. So that scene where they're having their rally and everyone's stroking guns, right? He pulls out a switchblade, and he's like, whoosh. And I thought to myself, okay, so later when people are interrogating suspects, he'll probably be okay
Yeah,
because he didn't have a gun, he had a knife.
Yeah.
And Burns didn't get stabbed, he got
He
shot.
got shot.
So that was the best I could come up with. What did you do?
So, I have a whole list of losers in my Simpsons. I mean, I filled the margins, and then I was like, oh no, I have to come up with a winner for this. And I actually wrote down the sundial because it was mentioned or, referenced twice in this episode, but I will ultimately go with Krusty. Because Krusty's been out of town for 6 weeks and he comes back and he's missed a majority of the drama. So I feel like he's also not a suspect.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He can maybe have an alibi because he's been out of town. He's not as angry at Mr. Burns as everybody else is because they've had 6 weeks to come up with a vendetta against him, and Krusty might have his own vendetta against him, who knows, but I don't think that he has one as fresh as everybody else does.
And it would be real weird to come home and find the sun blotted out.
Right.
And not know what's going on.
Yep.
So, yeah, I get that. That would be an interesting situation, but like he didn't have to deal with all this drama. No. So all right, what about loser though? Who are you going to go with? Because there are many.
It's going to be hard to narrow it down. I think we both could probably settle on the ultimate loser in this episode at the very beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Because he's Super Dude is our joint loser.
Yeah.
For this episode.
Look up Super Dude Simpsons, you'll know what we're talking about.
100%. Or just watch the episode. Just watch the first 5 minutes of the episode.
Watch the first 5 minutes.
You will know why Super Dude is
Poor
the
Super Dude.
loser of the episode. Well. I'm going to go with Ralph.
I like it.
Because at the beginning of the episode, the oil spew comes up through the basement of the school and through the floors of the school, and Ralph is complaining to Miss Hoover that the floor is rumbling, and she doesn't believe him because he's apparently used that excuse before, and the oil just blasts him and his desk out of the roof. So thankfully shows up later.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm going with Ralph as my loser.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he had a hard day.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
So I ultimately have to go with Smithers.
Mm-hmm.
And my big reason for that, he got fired. That sucks. And he got the runaround from Burns. But early in the episode, they're at this gym, and the sign on the gym says "Physical Fitness for Better Tyranny," and they're on a tandem bike, and Smithers is doing all the pedaling.
Yep.
And at one point, Burns is like, "Let's do another 20 miles," and Smithers has to do another 20 miles, and Burns ain't doing nothing.
No, Burns hops off and plays pinball.
Yeah. So I'm like, the better tyranny is Burns being the tyrant, but Smithers is doing all the work.
The exercise.
And he should be the tyrant. He should be the one with the power because he's doing the physical fitness.
Yep.
So it was really more about that sign, which I loved. But poor Smithers, he gets to run around a lot. So
I actually put him down for that same reason on my list because. Well, mostly because of the exercise bike, because I've never seen a tandem exercise bike before. So a stationary tandem bike, and Burns was in the back of it with his feet up, not on the pedals, and Smithers is just dripping sweat and then gets told another 20 miles. Yeah. Let's go another 20 miles. And it seemed like it was a frequent exercise routine that they had going on together.
So you think if the physical fitness is an element of you being a better tyrant, then Burns shouldn't be the one with that mantle. It should be Smithers. He came this
Poor
close.
Smithers. A rough end of the episode.
Yeah. But that leads us into a to be continued, and it will go into the first episode of season 7. So you all be continued because we will come back with the next episode, Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2, in which we will discover who that is. I'm sure if you don't know, watch the episode. And if you know the answer, like we said before, sound off in the comments and we will give you that shout out when we cover Part 2. That'll be a lot of fun.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. So stay tuned for season 7, episode 1, which is a continuation of the episode we just talked to. Be sure to click on the subscribe button in the corner. Give us a thumbs up if you like this episode, thumbs down if you didn't, and share whatever comments you care to in our comments field below. And be sure to check out some of our previous episodes as well.
Absolutely.
And until next time,
Jiminy Jillikers.
Mr. Burns has been shot. Just a minute. This isn't Mr. Burns at all. It's a mask. Wait, it is Burns. His wrinkly skin looks like a mask.